Hey, hello everyone. Have Angie today. Angie is born and raised in Miami. She's my best friend, and she have a lot of things under her belt. She is doing her PhD and she does a lot of jobs in Miami. And let's talk to Angie. Angie, how are you today?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. It's been a great day so far, and I can't wait to hop into some questions.
Well, I'm definitely going to ask you questions, since I'm your best friend too. So I'm gonna ask you some couple of like real good questions, and a lot of
And you already know
this
a lot
podcast.
about me.
Yeah, I already know. I already know. So this podcast is gonna go to what do you call YouTube and all these platforms. So hopefully people are gonna ask you a lot of questions, and once we're gonna get a lot of questions, maybe you're gonna answer them too. We start from your life in Miami. How was your life in Miami, and how was everything?
Yeah, okay. So growing up in Miami is like a whole other world. I live in Illinois now, so I really see that stark contrast between the person I was then and the person I am now. And so much of that can be dictated by your environment. And the environment in Miami is very much full of a lot of outgoing people. There's a lot of hardworking people, a lot of people that are hustling. We see a lot of independent people out there. And growing up there, I think that was a big thing is like such a living in such a fast paced environment. Everyone is constantly firing off on all cylinders and doing their own things. And
Miami's crazy, right?
living out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I often equate it when people are like, "What is it like growing up there?" I'm like, "It's like Jersey Shore." But, of course,
Right.
not as crazy as that show was, but I definitely was not part of the party crowd or the people that were, going out every weekend. Kind of kept to myself and did my own thing. Yeah, I think there was a lot of that going on for sure. And I would see it in friends or just, coworkers, people around me. Social media. Social media is huge, especially in Miami. There's a very big market for that. So, yeah, I think growing up there, I learned a lot of very, very big life lessons.
So let's go to the second question. The second question is like, what do you think of Miami makes people tough or more street smart? Do you think born and raised in Miami makes you tougher, or you're a more street smart person?
Yeah, I think I've often felt like since I personally prioritize school and learning, that I often was more book smart than street smart. But growing up in a place like Miami requires a lot of street smarts because a lot of people are they have a lot of characteristics of people that are on a mission and they will do everything that it takes to complete that goal. And even in, some not so very positive ways, right? Like we've all seen people that maybe fight their way to the top. They are undeserving of positions or opportunities, but they go about it in certain ways to get to that level that aren't necessarily ethical or just morally right. So yeah, I think in Miami, a lot of people are often on that wave of being more street smart than book smart. But it is an environment
And
that
I think
crafts a
I
lot
think
of
you
tough
was
people because
I,
you
I
got
think
to
you was a kind of and and I think you was a kind of a person who was very hardworking since we worked together, and I saw you most of the time, sometimes working two jobs and sometimes you was handling each and everything. And I have never seen a hard worker like you. It's tough to work like that, when you have two jobs under your belt and you're working day and night. And then you was doing your PhD. You was going to the school. So you was doing three things at the same time. When it comes to like woman employment or woman, what do you call, feminism, I always give your example that's the real example of feminism. When you are working two jobs, when you are going to the school, when you're pulling everything off together, and still you bought your own house, you bought your own cars, you had no safety net, but you done it by yourself, which is this early age. That's one of the example to any other woman living any part of this planet, that if you can do that, anyone can do.
Yes, I agree. I think it's very possible. And thank you. You have such a very kind way of speaking. I so appreciate it. And I mean, we started working together when I was 17. So we
Right.
were both full time at the time because I had gotten.
We're gonna go forward to the relationship, right? Relationships and all these type of things. So what do you think people misunderstood about loyalty today? What do you think? Why, you know?
What do I think that people misunderstand about
Loyalty,
relationships or
loyalty today, loyalty. Like when it comes
loyalty?
to
About
loyalty, yeah,
loyalty? I think I have a very conservative view of loyalty compared to a lot of modern day ideals. And I think that's in part of my upbringing because I grew up with parents that are old enough to be my grandparents, right? So
right.
they raised me on a lot of those very traditional values. So to me, loyalty often means like, and this is personal stuff, like I do not inflict this or push this upon anyone else, but I don't believe in having a lot of male friends because I think if you have too many male friends as a woman, it could be maybe a little uncomfortable for your future partner. And of course, our friendship was very different. Like we were
Yeah, it
colleagues
was
and we
always a
worked
very different
together.
friendship, right?
Yeah,
I
we worked
think
together side
our
by side.
our our friendship is more like we was always emotionally connected, right? And we used to talk about any topic, whenever I was going through something and I was going through hard times, I used to tell you all the things. So I think we was always there for each other, when we was going through hard times.
You gave me so much advice along the way. I mean, I was 17 at the time. I think you were 27. So
Yeah.
we had a little bit of an age gap there, but it was very helpful because you got to hear like a younger woman's perspective, and I got to hear, a bit of an older man's perspective versus, the boys or younger guys that I was dating at the time. And I think a
Who
lot
are
to do
mostly
with that.
failed, right? They mostly
What was that?
failed. The guys he was dating, they was mostly failed, right? Nobody was good. Nobody was worthy of
I
your
mean, I
uh,
I had one boyfriend when was growing up there in Florida. My first boyfriend when I was 16, and I actually met him in college because I got very lucky and got to graduate early. So he was a few years older than me. And he was so, so sweet. It just didn't work out for unrelated issues, probably a lot of immaturity and being young. But maybe if we were older, things could have panned out better. But it was nothing crazy, nothing drama filled. And I think the older I get, the more I learn how important it is to be the bigger person. And whether that means either shoving things down or being the one to stand up for other people, it is so, so important to kind of be that person that can intersect at those points of having very strong values and also being a kind person and just wanting to kind of be someone that other people are inspired by. So yeah, I think with loyalty, going back to that, I really make an effort to, like when it comes to social media, especially
right.
something that we saw a lot in Miami is like so many people
Too many
have
people
their
wanted to date
phones
you all the
and they're,
time.
maybe they're
Like I, re-
please.
like
I
I
mean,
remember,
there's
like I
a lot of
remember
suitors out there.
like I remember every person wants to follow you and person wants to date you all the time. I saw that time period. When everybody was texting you for no reason, right? I was like, why these men are like too desperate right
Yeah,
now? I wanted to take you out all the time, which was crazy. And I learned a lot. Like
it was definitely interesting back then. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you had your fair share of ladies that were after you as well. And I think, that's a part of just like the single scene. And out in Miami, it is definitely a larger crowd because
and then
there
you
is a
remember
lot.
we have some people like who used to work with us who was dating everybody, right? Everybody. They was dating everybody, each and every person. They was dating 20 people at the same time and putting 20 different pictures.
Which is
So
insane to me. I don't know.
the next topic, what I'm going to discuss about that, a lot of men wanna know about that topic, and it can only comes from a woman who understand each and everything. So the first question is, who woman wants a nice guy or a man who can lead? What do you think? As a woman, do you think you need a nice guy or you need a man who can lead?
That is a great question because I think a lot of times we think it has to be one or the other. And truly, the perfect person to be with is someone that is a balance of both of those, right? Like, that's like saying, do I want a woman that's, very attractive, or do I want a woman that has a good personality? And it's like, well, the answer would be both, right? Like, we don't want just the pretty face with a mean attitude. And we also don't want the person that necessarily is like very, very kind and hardworking, but maybe, we're just not attracted to them. So when it comes to picking a man that you see a future with, right? That would really be someone that is definitely a leader. And that's, goes across all fronts on wanting someone that you feel inspired by, you admire. And I think admiration is so, so important for a woman to view her man as someone that she really can look at and be like, I am proud of the person that I'm with
Hmm.
rather than someone tells you like, "Oh, your partner, you guys have a lot in common." And you're like, "Oh,
Right.
me and him, we're nothing alike," versus being like, "Yes, we do." Like
So yeah, there is like a lot of guys who thinks if they're gonna be a nice guy, they're gonna get a woman. I don't think so. Being a nice guy is good, but you have to protect her, right? You have to provide her. You have to bring something to the table. Being nice is not
yeah,
getting you a lot of women.
I think with that topic too, the idea of being a like quote unquote nice guy is that they're lacking in a lot of other areas, but they're using niceness as a prop and sort of a facade to be like, well, I'm a nice person, but
I'm a nice guy.
they're
I'm gonna
lacking
bring,
in other qualities.
I'm a nice guy. I'm gonna bring nicest things to the table. No, she doesn't want a nice guy. She wants somebody who goes work hard and bring some money. Since everything is expensive these days, right?
Everything is so expensive. That is very true. But if being a nice guy means being someone that is lazy or not helpful, selfish, then are you really nice? You know what I mean? So when you talk about being a nice guy, I think the main reason that women don't go for nice guys as often as you would think, when you think about a man that's a leader, is because they are nice on paper. Maybe they're nice to strangers, they're nice, but they're not lacking or they don't have the qualities of someone that you can build a future with, right? Like you can't build a life on a unstable foundation. And if it's like, well, I'm really nice, but I don't have a job, I don't have a car, get angry very easily.
Which a lot of people are, right?
I talk
With
badly.
a lot of women, a lot of men are, right? They have no jobs, they have no lifestyle, they're playing games in women houses, and they think they're the nicest men on the planet. But I think they are the laziest
Exactly. And
one.
I think that's where a lot of times we see that discrepancy where or the disconnect between like, well, I'm nice, but I can't get a woman. And it's like, but you're not the kind of man necessarily that has qualities of, a woman is looking oftentimes for a man to have a family with, and to do that,
Right.
we know that that costs money. It requires a lot of discipline, a lot of commitment, and being nice doesn't necessarily equal commitment, loyalty, or even if you do have those things, it definitely is a great perspective to take of I want to do both. I don't want to just be a pretty face and I also don't want to just be, I'm really smart, but like I never shower or I, don't take good care of myself, then you're gonna struggle in the dating world. And that's why it's so important to really, as a man, if you're a man watching this, is to try to be the kind of person that you would want your mom to be with, your sister to date, your future daughters to be with, right? And you would want a man that can take care of them, that wants to sacrifice for them and vice versa, right? Like there's a role that the woman is also playing in this. But when we're talking about what the qualities that the man would have, I think the main ones are being someone that is, a man of God, a man
And
with good values. And
And a
yeah,
lot of times, they are not buying flowers for their woman. They are not opening doors. They're not old school. So a lot of men should understand one thing, that woman likes old school men who still buy flowers for her, who open doors for her, who can make mystery dates and stuff like that. So if you really want to attract a woman, you have to be a little bit of old school. But a lot of women like it. So we have another question. What makes a man attractive beyond looks and money? What do you think? As a woman, what do you think? If a man doesn't have looks and money, what makes him attractive beyond that? He doesn't have two
yeah, I
things.
think there's so
You have no
many
Lambo.
things outside of looks and money. Outside of looks and money, I really think the main qualities to look for is a man that is truly trying to be a good person day in and day out, right? Like he wants to take care of those around him. builds his community up, right? Like he doesn't just go to work to make money. He goes to work because he's a man on a mission and he's got goals. And his goal isn't just to take home a paycheck, it's to provide, whether that be a service, a contribution to his community and just the world around him, right? Like that's truly the difference between, where you might make a choice on the kind of person you're looking for. And it's like, well, this man over here has money and good looks, but he's lacking in humility. And humility is one of those qualities that is so often forgotten in modern day, where it's like, I can be all these things, but am I humble or am I doing it because I'm trying to get women, because I'm trying to peacock myself as somebody that everybody wants to be like, rather than truly embodying a good person that believes in the good and spreads that light, right? So I think that is truly what's most valuable outside of just looks and money is the core of who you are. Because this guy can make a lot more money over here while this one just earns an honest living. He's not lazy, but he earns less. He's not, a millionaire, but this person has commitment, loyalty, emotional regulation and stability, as well as being someone that shares your goals and values. Like a lot of times, a rich man is so, so driven that he might not have the time to be home and build a family and,
Well,
want to do those things. So,
well, I think is, what I think is like if the man doesn't have looks and money, he should have manners because manners can take you anywhere, right?
yes,
If you have good manners and if you
very true.
treat your woman nicely, you will definitely get her, you know. But if you have no looks and money and you still have no manners, then nobody gonna get you. You're gonna be out of your luck. So better work on your emotion or manners and emotions when you have no money. So let's go to the third question. What's something men think woman wants, but that's actually wrong. Like a lot of men think, oh, women want that, women want cars, women want money, and these type of things, but that's actually wrong. What do you think?
Right.
Is that actually wrong?
Think it depends on the woman. I think for a question like this, I can't say that it's wrong or right because I do know that many women often equate a man's value to the things that he has and vice versa. And of course, that's a very superficial way to view the world because there's so much more to a person than what meets the eye. So when we're looking at a being and an individual and we're kind of judging them by the car that they drive, by the title that they hold at work. We are missing out on so many other aspects of what
Right.
makes someone a good partner. And that comes down to truly those morals and values of, if I see someone drop something, do I go and pick it up for them or do I keep walking because like it's not affecting me and I have to keep going versus being like, I can help you with this, or, seeing someone struggling and wanting to step in and be someone that comes to others' aid. So, yeah, I think a lot of times, it is a wrong belief to think that women just want a man with money and looks because while it is important, there is so much more to a person than
I
what they
think a lot
can
of a
right
lot
now
of a
offer.
lot of women goes for emotional connection. If you have a good emotional connection with your woman, it will be very hard for her to think about anything else. Like I saw you, spending money on people, helping them out and stuff like that. You never look for somebody for their money. You always help people. You give them your house, you give them your space, you give them your energy. You paid all the bills. I have a big example in front of me right now. So a lot of times when the men ask me, "Oh, we can't find a good woman," I said, "There are plenty of good women out there, right? You're not looking. You're not looking at the right places. You should go out. You should talk to them. There's still examples like you, who done a lot of things like that, right? So they
I
should go
agree.
out
And I do think
and
women,
they should go out and look for a nice
yeah,
woman, rather than thinking that that's a myth or something, right?
I agree. I think a lot of times women have the same belief about men. I hear a lot of women also say stuff like, "Oh, there's no more good men left." And it's not true. They are all around you. Oftentimes it's, maybe not the exact circumstances you're looking for, people are on different walks of life or in different stages of life. So it is really important to find someone that aligns with you in those areas. But I think for men that are struggling to find a good woman, big component is looking in the right places.
Women fall more for confidence and kindness.
I think that confidence is number one because that's first impressions. And
Right.
a first impression, you're really going to notice how confident someone is and how someone carries themselves when they walk into a room. And if they kind of walk around with their chin held up or their head facing down, if their eyes are darting around the room or if they're looking, straight ahead, eyes focused in on what they're doing, who they're speaking with, they're making eye contact. That goes so much further into initiating future moments and meetings with another individual rather than being just kind. So a lot of people though that are confident are often confident in different ways, right? Like we can see someone that's very boastful about their confidence as well as that sort of quiet confidence. And I've often found myself very, very drawn to men that have what I call this like, and you'll often see it equated to quiet confidence, which is that they're not walking into the room kind of like, look at me, but instead they walk in just shoulders back. They're wearing a nice outfit, they're put together, and they almost move slower. You can tell who is more self assured by, I think, in the way that they carry themselves. And a big part of that is speed. So when someone's a little more nervous and shifty, they might walk a little faster or move really quick. And I mean, as someone that's been busy, and I'm sure you have done the same as
Yeah.
a very, very
Right.
busy, you often move fast, right? You're like, I got to do this, I got to get this. And you shift around a lot. But one of the best ways to present yourself, especially for the first time when you're meeting someone, is to be very slow and not slow, like, in terms of just speaking, but to slow down when you're walking. You take steps one at a time. You glance around the room slowly. Pick something up gently because it shows that you're not in a rush. Like, time waits for nobody but you, and you're on your own
You know,
time. So
a
you're
lot of
not
men,
pressed.
they just a lot of men, they just became a little feminine today, right? These days, a lot of men act like a feminine. That's the main reason that's killing a lot of women interest in these type of men because they act too feminine in front of them. What do you think about that? Do you think a man should act feminine, or it should have a manly man vibes coming from him? When he's going to approach a woman or talk to a woman.
So that's a very straightforward question. I
Yeah.
truthfully, I believe a man should be masculine, and
Right.
every sense of that word, I think that a lot of that ties back to the things that we read and the things that we see and indulge in our day-to-day
Right.
lives. But masculinity is being a protector, so, a provider. And it doesn't just mean providing in terms of finances. Like, you can give in so many more ways than money. It can be
Right.
giving your time, giving your attention, your emotional stability in terms of happiness, joy, and spreading that rather than kind of, presenting yourself as someone that is doing the taking. I think it's very attractive to be a giver, especially as a man, because it is something that is so, so lost nowadays, is that people are often putting themselves first, and we live in a very selfish world. So seeing someone that is truly doing for others because they want to, and there's nothing to gain, right? Like, you're going to help a mom who dropped her groceries while she's trying to put her kids in the back seat of the car, not because you're trying to get her phone number, but because you recognize a fellow human in need and you
Right.
step in to be a kind person. So I think masculinity is so, so important because when we talk about masculinity, like, these are the men that are building the roads, the men that are building the skyscrapers and
Cowboys and stuff like that.
your
And
houses. And
we're gonna go
yeah,
to another very important topic since we this podcast gonna go throughout the world. Right? It's gonna go to Dubai. It's gonna go to different type of part of world. A lot of people have a myth about American women. They think American woman is too easy. They too easy to get and stuff like that. But they don't understand American woman is the woman like anywhere else in the world, right? When you thought about that, people think American woman is too easy to get. What do you think about that?
I think it depends on. So do you mean easy in terms of
Easy to talk
that
and easy to
they're just
get.
easy?
they think in compared to their own woman in their countries, American woman is too easy to get. I always tell them that's a myth, right? Woman is woman everywhere else in the world, right? There is nothing easy to get.
Well, women are, that's like a big group of people. So there's definitely some differentiation there. But oftentimes, we can group people and make judgments on that. Like men are often stronger and women are often softer. Now,
Right,
you're going to find a man that is often maybe more feminine. And you could
right.
find a woman that's really strong. So I think when you talk about when we're discussing stuff like if all women are the same, definitely not all the same, but like a woman everywhere is going to
Give you a hard
desire a
time.
lot of those things, right?
And
Like
a
we're
lot of
all gonna
men, they don't
want.
understand. They don't understand like getting a woman is not easy. She will give you a hard time. You know, she is going to choose somebody who's gonna be the dad for their kids, who's gonna run the house and everything. So you have to be prepare yourself before approaching a woman because then once you're gonna get a hard time, it was like, man, she's asking too much questions and stuff like that. But a lot of men who never approach a woman in their life, who never had a relationship, they think everything is so easy. You know, being married and living with
Yeah,
a
and that
woman for
depends a lot
yeah,
on the woman that you're talking to, like
right.
what caliber of woman is she and how was she raised? Because I often feel the same way about men. Like men are too easy, like you've seen them. They've been desperate.
Yeah,
They
too
throw
desperate.
themselves.
Yeah,
So,
throwing through. Yeah,
there's a lot of ways that like you can be too easy. And I think women have made things a little bit too easy. I've been told I'm a little bit difficult. And I never intended to be difficult in the sense of making anyone's life harder. But if we're talking about being someone that values themselves and waits for the right kind of man to spend their time with, then yes, that is something that I really do value. So it depends on the kind of woman that you're speaking with. We see people that are having children with someone that they met yesterday. So sometimes people are being too easy. Like you don't even know this person who you don't know what they believe, how they want to raise children, if they even want to commit to you in a marriage. And
sometimes
I
they're too
think,
quick to jump in. You know, I think that sometimes they're very emotionally weak and they're too quick to jump in. And a lot of times they don't understand, but the person who you're jumping in, they're not thinking about what the result gonna be. You know, they're just jumping into the relationships without even thinking. And we saw many of us, our friends, jump into relationship without even thinking, and now they're crying. So I think most of the time when you're jumping into a relationship, you have to think about your future. You know, you have to think about what this relationship brings to your life. You know, do not just go for like you like that
yeah,
person
I
or
think
you
that's
just want to
where
be with them.
discernment. Yeah, that's when we come to like the when I always think about is like having discernment, which is really tough, but it's like, can I discern that this person is a good person? And sometimes we don't know, right? Like people put up masks, people hide who they are sometimes, and maybe it's because they want to be that person and they're just not there yet. So it's not always with malintent, but because we'd like to think like, a woman that is putting herself out there for you doesn't necessarily do that to all men. Maybe she
Right.
truly really
Wants
likes
you.
you and
She truly wants you. Right.
she's not easy, but she's gonna be easier for you because she recognizes your value, right? So while a man who, has no job, and it's not just jobs, but it's like who has low character might approach her and she would be very standoffish. For a man like you that is very hardworking, has a career, is very ambitious and kind, and has always been extremely intelligent, would be the kind of man that a woman would be easier to be around because she recognizes that in you and it's easier for her to make that connection with you. So, it's like anything else. If I connect with
Hmm.
you, it's easier to talk
Right.
to you is to the
Right.
mailman that maybe he's driving by and, even if it's, without having things like.
So what do you think, like modern day dating, right? We are going through this modern day dating when we looking Instagram all the time and stuff. Do you think this making difficult for people to date because we have too much
Absolutely.
expectations? You know, we are watching somebody's Instagram all the time and we're thinking how this happy couple is, but back end that couple is not that happy, right? They're going through problems, they're going through struggles, but they're they're putting their happy picture in front of everybody. Do you think it's making difficult for a relationship because people are thinking, oh, we can deserve more?
Yeah, that's definitely been a downfall of modern day society with having social media is that we often see these things online and it's not only showing us like what our partner should be doing but also what we should be doing, and it is high expectations because these people online might not work the same hours that you do.
Right,
They might have generational wealth, so they're able to take
right.
their spouse on vacations while you might take a vacation once every 5 years, and that's okay too. But every relationship has problems, every relationship has conflict, so it's very unrealistic to look at anyone's life and just assume that everything is happy go lucky and that they're living in paradise, because paradise is only down in Florida, okay?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
place on earth, and
That's
it's
the
not
main
a
reason
place
I'm
that you
telling you to come back to Florida. I'm telling you to come back to Florida. I'm since my 2 years, I
it's
keep
a
telling you to come
very
back.
tough.
Yeah, it's getting
I know you
colder.
the only thing pay for the sun. It is so expensive to live out there, but I mean, growing up there was, a big part of what made me who I am today, so I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, so I think, when you think about like these dynamics and relationships, social media has often just made it easier to not be happy with any area of our life. And relationships take a big hit on that because we see so many people striving for things that are hard to obtain. And maybe those people didn't even earn it. Maybe they were given it. Maybe they didn't even go through those things. And we're like, oh, that's unfair. But that's when we have to remind ourselves that number one, comparison is the biggest thief of joy. And two, life is unfair. Like somebody,
And
your
what do you
neighbor
think
could hit the
about
lottery.
and what do you think about the breakups? What do you think how to deal with these breakups when you get emotionally thinking tangled with that person and thinking about that person for 9 to 10 months without even knowing that this person going to come back to your life? How to cope up with that? How to deal with these type of breakups? What do you have to do to get rid of that? Right.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think one of the best ways to tackle any hardships in life is that you have to get through them. You can't go over them, you can't go under them. You have to go through those obstacles. And oftentimes that means, realistically sitting there in that pain, whether that means crying in your bed on a Saturday night, feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And it might be ugly, it's not a pretty sight, but those are the things that truly help you get through it and start moving on. There's this quote that says, hope is the anchor that keeps you at shore. And what that means is if you're sitting around hoping that somebody is going to come back to you or that they're going to change their mind, you're keeping yourself at shore instead of being the sailor that, is letting those rough seas make them into a stronger sailor and sailing into the ocean. You're stuck at the shoreline. And
Right.
we don't want to be
You're
stuck at
there.
shore. We want to be off sailing.
Right. You can.
With those breakups, you really have to let go of the idea of hoping, because you should never want to be with anyone that doesn't want to be with you. If someone's going to walk out of your life, you have to be willing to let them go, even if it causes you a lot of pain and grief. I truly, truly believe that if you love someone, you really want them to be happy. And if their happiness means them not being with you, then you would want that for them. If someone, let's say we're dating, if I decide that I don't want to be in a relationship because I'm happier by myself, if you truly cared about me, you would let me go and find my happiness if that's not with you. I honestly believe it's even selfish to keep someone from being happy, because if I tell you, you can't leave me because I'm going to be devastated, that's selfish, right? Like I'm putting me before you.
And a lot of times, like it's very easy for men to get out of the relationship, but he bounce back again. He can get out of the relationship easy, but he's gonna keep coming back to you forever. But for a woman, it's very hard to get out of a relationship. And once she's out of the relationship, then she's out forever. So a lot of men, they don't understand this thing. Like if a woman is out of the relationship, there is no way in this world that she's gonna come back to you because a woman is emotionally attached to you, and once she is no more emotionally there, you're done. You're done forever. There is no way she will come
Yeah,
back to you.
there's exceptions for that, but oftentimes I do notice a lot of women when they go through a breakup, they are more so ready when they're the ones doing the breaking up to kind of get on with their life, while men can be a little bit more impulsive with that decision and they might decide that they're leaving and then they regret that choice. I think women might actually be a little bit more rational in those decisions because they truly wait till they're like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And really, that's what everyone should do, right? Like, back and forth is toxic. You should
So
never
what do you think?
be.
What do you think when a woman tried to leave and this guy became kind of like crazy? He started texting her, stalking her, begging her, bringing flowers to her. What do you think this thing gonna work for him? Or he's just a stupid, because she's already leaving him and now he's being so desperate about her, right? You go through a lot of the things like that, right? When this guy's like became crazy, stalkers and crazy and all these type of things, right?
It's not crazy to love someone deeply, and there's a lot of honor in that, you know? Now, when it comes to ending a relationship and still trying to force someone back into a situation that they don't wanna be in, then we start impeding on that line of sanity because we should be a little bit more understanding that people are on their own journeys in life, and sometimes that doesn't include us, and that's okay. So, I don't think it's crazy to love a woman and to put yourself out there to try to get back with her because if you truly love her and she is the woman for you, then it can work. You know, I've taken people back that
Yeah,
have the
but
effort.
even if a bond takes you back, this time it will be sooner than later, right? Because it's gonna maybe for a month, right? Because once you get
I think, yeah, I think one breakup is enough.
like, let me give you one example. If the breakup happens after 9 months, right? You get back together within 30 days. Your next breakup within 1 month, because the good feeling is going to go away sooner. Because when you're going through breakup, you want that person so bad, right? You want that person to be in your life. And once that person comes back to your life, the next breakup can happen anytime because you both are ready for that. That's what a lot of times happen.
Statistically, if you break up with someone once, the probability of it happening again is increased, right? So, like, if someone goes through a breakup one time, they're often going to break up again. The strongest relationships never break up. They don't even play those games because they are working on a system of true commitment, which is we are a team and we're in this together. I'm not going to break up with you because you're a flawed, imperfect, infallible being. And you're not going to break up with me the first time, I make a mistake. I am not having the best day. So those are the best relationships where it's two people, they're a team, they're tackling life together rather than seeing it as a competition. And I think that's a big downfall nowadays. And I've seen it personally is so many people are competing with their spouse. You shouldn't
Right.
be competing. You should be working together if you want to build on something. You know, if I stack a brick and then you stack another, we're moving up. But if I stack a brick and you move my brick, like, and we're tugging on the bricks and moving them out of the way, we're going to be stuck at ground zero. So, a lot of what makes a good relationship is two people that really desire growth, desire teamwork, and really make an effort to do that every day. You know, being a man that puts himself out there for the woman that he loves is never a bad thing, but you should do that in the relationship. You shouldn't wait till you break up to be like, now I'm going to be the man that you've always wanted me to be. Now I'm going to buy you flowers.
Yes.
Now I'm going to show up at your door. You should do that while you're with her, while you're with the woman. You should be thinking like, oh, I'm gonna stop and get her favorite. You know, you get gas at least once a week, right? Like, for example, next time at you're at the gas station, go inside and pick up your partner's favorite candy. You know that she loves Skittles. Go inside and get a pack of Skittles, a bag of Lays.
Flowers or something, right? So
Yeah.
we already talk a lot of topics today. Our last question today, which is like the closing question for us, is who is Angie today compared to the girl who is growing up in Miami? So that's gonna be our last question, and over to you. That whenever you think. So next time people are gonna look at you, they will ask you some questions about. So what is who is Angie today compared to the girl who was growing up in Miami?
Yeah, I the person that I am today has evolved so much since I grew up in Miami. And back then, I've always been a little bit of an outgoing person, but I definitely grew up more shy. I was honestly terribly shy at times, and I would put myself out there because my dad was so outgoing and he made everyone around him like him. And it was because of the way that he would always look to make people feel like a friend. He spoke to everyone like they were a friend and complimented everyone every chance he got. So I've often lived my life with thinking that you should never keep a kind thought to yourself. If you have something nice to say it. And, back in Miami, I often felt like I was only worthy of good things if I achieved goals. And I put so much of my worth in, the way I looked. And a lot of these things that like are hard to admit, but like, if I got this degree, if I did this, if I,
Or if I get
made
this car, if I get the Jeep, if I drive nice car, like you keep spending money on certain things you don't need, right? And that thing is there.
Yeah, and just feeling like I wasn't truly happy with who I was. I had a lot of superficial friendships. I don't even have many friends from Florida that I talk to anymore. And a lot of those are more acquaintances than friends.
A
But
lot of you blogged already.
yeah, I mean, I don't talk to anyone like from high school, or actually some of my closest friends are still from elementary school. So shout out to them. But other than that, like I kind of wore a mask all the time. And it's so easy to live our life just, wanting so bad to make people like us. And younger Ange always wanted everyone to like her, and I took
Right.
on a very people pleaser role. So moving to Illinois, the person I am now has started to step into someone that really truly likes who I am more, and I really want to be better as a person for those around me, not just so that I can make people like me. If they don't like me, it's still not an easy thought. I still grapple with wanting to be liked, but the person I am now is someone that truly desires to focus on building positive relationships with the person that I am truly. I often have been quiet and shy about the things I believe or the way I feel in an effort to not hurt other people. I never wanted to say, like, hey, I don't like that. Or, if someone says something, I often wouldn't stand up to them. And it has caused me a lot of grief to kind of put other people before myself all the time because then I never feel like I truly know who I am when I'm constantly putting up all these fronts about who I am to make you like me. Like, then who am
Right.
I truly?
But you have come along a long journey, and now you are a mature person. You have your own house. You have your life set.
Yeah.
You have
Since moving
everything.
here, I bought a
You know,
house. I started my career. Back then, I was
from
working
nothing. There was nobody
three,
there.
four
And I,
jobs.
I know there was no safety net. There was nobody to help you. You was on your own. You walk into that place, and get a job, which a lot of people, they can't do that. They were sending me this resume, and one day you just walk into that place and you get the job and stuff like that. That's what we're going to talk about in the next podcast, right? Today we're going to end this podcast. So we have something to offer today. And definitely, we're gonna be on another podcast with you. We'll talk about all this, your jobs and all these type of things. And it was very nice to have you on the show. And best of luck. And see you soon in Florida.
Yes, thank you.